Gotcha. And welcome to Tech Server Nerd. We are here again with comics history and history masters in training part 2 with Drew. How you doing, Drew?
Hey, hey.
Hey. So today we are doing the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, for those who are uninitiated. We're just going to go through the movies, go through kind of our history with them, our favorite moments, favorite times, and yeah, we're gonna go through it. All right, Drew. So, what do you? Where do we want to start off? Hulk, Incredible Hulk.
Well, let's talk about our experience with Marvel up to this point. I remember, well, to this day, I'm still a huge DC fan. I always will be. They will always outrank Marvel for me personally. But I remember growing up and seeing some episodes of Spider-Man that was on Fox Kids. And I might have seen some X-Men. I definitely saw more X-Men Evolution when it was on Kids WB and Cartoon Network. So when we're getting into the movie portion of Marvel, a lot of people don't know this, or they just forget for some reason. But Blade was actually the very first Marvel movie to be made pre-MCU.
Yeah, I think that was actually one of the first superhero movies ever.
Well, we
Like
had
ever, to my understanding.
well, for like mainstream heroes, I think you had the Batman series first with Adam West,
Oh yeah, you're so right.
and then in the 70s we had Superman with Christopher Reeve. So can't count him
That's
out.
true. Oh, shoot, we gotta go back to that one time. Christopher Reeve Superman. Oh man.
Oh man, we're just gonna have to do a whole Superman episode. Definitely,
Yeah,
he's my favorite character. So
I'll definitely have me doing some research. So I got into Marvel when I was really young. Basically, whenever I went to go see my grandparents, I've got like learning disabilities, ADHD, dyslexia, and I wasn't doing good in public school, so they actually had to put me in like a private school when I was a kid for kids with like learning disabilities. So I was like with a bunch of weirdos like myself, um, going to school, but they did things like very different. So when I went with my grandparents, one thing that I ended up like loving was reading, and I would just tear through books. Like I would go to school and I would like read entire books, and my parents and then also my grandparents, all one of the things I do remember is every time I went to the grocery stores back when they sold comics at the grocery store or anywhere in public with them, they'd buy a comic. Like it'd be like an Archie or a Marvel or DC, just didn't matter. It'd be something different each time. But I just remember tearing through. So that's where my love for Marvel actually came from. But I love these movies. And I was already a big Marvel fan. I always preferred Marvel over DC, but when the MCU started coming out, I can tell you for majority of these movies, I was there opening day. I was there at midnight, opening day, like ready to get my Marvel on. I was so upset that I still haven't even seen No Way Home. You have no idea how much it kills me because that's probably the one I was looking forward to the most, and I still haven't made it to a theater.
well, I believe it's finally getting released home media on April 12th. So you won't have too much longer to wait.
Yeah, that doesn't sound that far away.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, I'm like, damn, dude. I think we have $5 Tuesdays out here, something like that.
Mm.
So if it's still in theater, I might try to grab it up next week. But yeah, so all of these movies, like, you know, I've got to be, and I don't know. I know a lot of people have gotten with, like they going too woke and stuff like that. And though I can see the wokeness and the wokeness does annoy me, it doesn't like stop me from enjoying it. It just like I don't know. I just feel like my entire life I was waiting to see these characters. Like okay, like Carnage, for instance, which was Sony, and the Venom 2, But you know how long I've been wanting to see that movie? I read that when I was like 16, and I wanted to see that story. Spider-Man, Venom, Carnage, all fighting, Carnage going on a, murder spree throughout the city. I wanted to see that my whole life, so I'm not going to let it not being exactly the way I want it to be get me down. I just kind of roll with it, because it's really is the little things that make you happy in life. And I'll tell you, nothing makes me happier than a Marvel movie.
Well put. Well put. Yeah. It's funny. I was born, and then 1 month later, it was the debut of Carnage in the comics.
When you were born?
Yeah. So Carnage came out in '92.
I was just I'm like 16 years older than you. I was about 16. I was about 15 or 16. No, 92, 12. I was 12. And
Okay.
I was reading, and when I was 12, I was reading Carnage. I was like,
that's a good age to read symbiote stuff going down. That's cool.
Do what?
That's a good age to be for Venom and Carnage to first come into the world. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I had my parents seen what I was actually reading. I'm sure they would have had a different, a different take on it. Like, they were super strict on movies, but they didn't like comics. They didn't care. It was like whatever.
Yeah, I don't think that they would get along with Cletus Cassidy very much.
Not at
all. So we're still talking in a world before the MCU, and up to that point, we had already had at least one Punisher movie that came out, but it was like years before Blade. And then
I think there was a B movie, like not even major Punisher film made at one point. Like it might have even been a fan film that I'm thinking of. But I remember like early 90s or late 80s, there was some Punisher.
Yeah, I'm actually going to look that up real quick because I know we had at least two Punisher movies before the Thomas Jane one came out, I believe. Let's see here.
I wonder if any of them are going to pop up in a movie like Doctor Strange or something.
Oh, that would be crazy.
I think John Bernthal is supposed to be in Doctor Strange.
It wouldn't surprise me, honestly.
I don't think as a major role. I think. Oh no! I remember what I read. He's going to show up
Don't say anything. Don't say.
But you can't know. Like you can't know if it's true or not. Like, well, I guess we'll know after the movie comes out.
Well, there are some legitimate leakers who are like always right, and I don't want to take any chances because I'm really looking.
I think this one's pretty right, but yeah, we might not see John Bernthal, but there's going to be some Punisher.
Yeah. Well, John Bernthal and Charlie Cox have been confirmed to be coming back to do their respective roles in probably a new Disney Plus series or however they're going to handle that for their portion of the MCU. But yeah, we had Dolph Lundgren in 1989. He was the first Punisher. And then we had
Lundgren was the Punisher?
Yes.
That's the one I'm remembering from when I was a kid then.
Oh yeah, it was 89. So
yeah,
you were 9. And then we've got Thomas Jane in 2004. And then we have Ray Stevenson, who was him in Punisher Warzone that came out in 2008.
And which one of those had the dude from Pulp Fiction?
Let's see here.
We should have done research on Punisher.
Well, yeah. remember, we're in training. So.
We are in training. Guys. We were originally going to do Daredevil, but we got Daredevil next week. I have been reading a lot of Punisher and Kingpin stuff this week, getting prepped for Daredevil.
Yeah,
I should mention this isn't a spoiler, but I did in my research for Daredevil today watch Charlie Cox interview. I think yesterday or 2 days ago.
Yeah.
He gave an interview. He's definitely excited for future. He said he's got multiple projects coming in. He doesn't know what's happening with the Daredevil brand, which I guess sounds like he's going to be like a side character and a lot of people's stuff. But he didn't reveal much, but he definitely said this wasn't a one-off and he's got stuff coming up.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I want to see, more Daredevil.
Oh yeah, they're not getting rid of him anytime soon.
I can't believe you haven't seen the show. That's by far probably one of the best of the MCU television shows, by far.
Yeah, when it came out, I think I was just distracted with my schooling and working at the time, and just never really got to it because they always talked about how this show was eventually going to tie in with some characters from the MCU, and it was going to become like a part of that universe, but it really didn't really go anywhere. And then Netflix lost the rights from making the show when Disney and Marvel decided to do what they did.
So, when did Netflix lose the rights? Because I remember they had that last like Defenders season. It just felt like thrown together.
Well, okay, well, not necessarily lose the rights, but they canceled the show. They stopped making it because I think Marvel.
Which is so dumb. Didn't they get 3 seasons out of it? And it was so good.
I think they had 4, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to look that
up. I do believe
too.
it was the 4th season. I have not watched.
Yeah,
but I watched all the stuff with Elektra and Punisher and
yeah.
Oh.
Well, everyone kept saying how great it is and everything else, and it was like it's kind of like similar to Cobra Kai. It's like, oh, every season is amazing. Oh, they only had 3 seasons and it was only 39 episodes. So there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess while this, because so the show was officially canceled in, I believe, what was it, 2018 maybe, and that was like around the time when Disney was starting to talk about Disney Plus and having their own streaming service, and I think that's when they pulled the plug on it because they had plans for it in the future, but nobody knew what it was going to be, and to this day we still don't. But all we know is that at least Daredevil's actor is coming back. Nothing confirmed on anyone else in the cast.
I would like to see Jessica Jones come back. Honestly, I'd love to see Luke Cage come back.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a perfect casting.
Oh yeah,
with the guy who played Luke Cage, and
I was really surprised. I was really surprised that the Defenders didn't really take off like it should have, and I think it's mostly because people were expecting that original team up of Hulk, Doctor Strange, Namor, and eventually the Silver Surfer. So
I think it was because it was very short. Like it was like 40-minute episodes, and there was like 6 of them.
Okay.
5 of them or something. I forgot how many, but it was just that Defenders show just happened so fast. It was like,
yeah,
here's a show with these characters, and it was just like ridges. That's all I remember about that show is, wow, that was over fast.
Yeah, and
it was over before it started.
And between that and Iron Fist, both of them were just getting absolutely destroyed by the critics, and this is before people were using Rotten Tomatoes as a political weapon.
Yeah, Iron Fist was pretty legitimately bad. I know one of my first memories of watching Iron Fist was I'm like watching, and they were doing how they do the tricks, they do the kung fu with the ropes, and they pull themselves. Well, he's doing this trick, and the rope hung, and they like kept the shot with it, and it like hung, so he like didn't hit the ground right away, and then he hits the ground. Like he goes to land, and he's just floating for a second, and then he lands. It's just like it was obvious his rope got hung up.
Oh, geez.
But the fact that that scene made Final Cut, like I don't know how many people must have looked at that, and because I looked at it once, I was like, oh shit, he got caught on the rope.
Yeah.
And it's the scene when he like does a flip over the car. You could like tell, and it's yeah, it was just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and
That they actually kept it. I'm like, okay, so they just didn't care. That's what I thought with that show. They just didn't care. They're just like, we're just gonna show that dude.
well,
Okay.
that reminds me of the final season of Game of Thrones, where there was one episode where a water bottle was sitting underneath someone's chair, and then in another one, there's a literal Starbucks cup in the shot of when people are sitting at a table, and
Is
it's
that
like,
Game of Thrones?
yeah, Game of Thrones, and it's like
I remember hearing about that. I
yeah,
was
and
laughing
it's like
so
the
hard.
actress or whoever, like someone on the set that just nonchalantly left it there, and then I cannot believe that got past final approval to be aired on TV. Like seriously, but we know up to that
They
point.
just don't care at that point.
Well, Dumb and Dumber
Game of
as
Thrones seemed like a huge money grab. It's like they tried, and I think it's like it became really bigger than they expected that it was going to be, but then they just weren't really like prepared for the ending. Like it's like they were walking around with like big balls, then like whipped it out and had nothing there.
well D&D, or Dumb and Dumber as the fan base has grown learned to call DB Weiss and the other one. I don't remember his name, but anyway, that's how much I care about Game of Thrones. But no, they had completely checked out. HBO basically gave them a blank check and said, yes, as many episodes as you want. George R. Martin wanted more episodes, but they had their sights set on Lucasfilm and Star Wars because they had just been offered a trilogy. And well, as we know how that went down, just like a lot of other directors that have worked with Lucasfilm since Disney bought Star Wars,
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Kathleen
whoa!
Kennedy.
George R. R. Martin was it? Game of Thrones was Lucasfilms.
No, no, the D&D, the showrunners, they got offered a deal with Lucasfilm to do a trilogy for Star Wars, and when that was announced, it was very clear that up to that point they didn't care about ending the show on like some as like with like putting in any effort at all. They just kind of smudged things together and just said, yeah, here's our final season. Here's 6 episodes, and like halfway through those 6, everyone had just pretty much checked out at that point. They had screwed up so bad they just didn't care.
So I was not watching it, and I was watching the breakdown, and it was so funny because like for years I was like, dude, you gotta watch Game of Thrones, you gotta watch Game of Thrones, and then in like one week, like everyone just unanimously, why did I watch Game of Thrones? Game of Thrones wasted my time. I can't believe it. Like I don't know. It's just funny. Like
Yeah, and it's not like it even went woke. It was just bad writing, no attention to detail, sloppy, not really remembering how characters were already established. And while some characters had good endings, other ones just ended in a blaze, and not a good one either. There was no blaze of
didn't
glory.
someone just have rocks fall on top of their head or something?
Yeah,
They're just
yeah,
like standing there. The next minute, like a rock lands on top of them.
yeah. It was like this couple. They they just got smushed. Yeah, that was it. That was their story. So, but anyway, let's go back to a time before the word woke was even a thing, and just remember that right before the very first movie of the MCU came out, we had up to that point Blade and the X-Men and Spider-Man and Daredevil and a couple of Fantastic Fours, a Hulk. So Marvel was already trying to advance ground with their films. It's just that other than really the early X-Men movies and the Raimi trilogy for Spider-Man, nothing else seemed to be really sticking. And that was problematic for Marvel because, well, as we know, they were both owned by, those properties were owned by different companies at the time, Sony and Fox.
Yeah.
And now look at where we are, and Disney is in control of Fox, but Sony's holding on to Spider-Man with an iron grip, and as they should.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the smartest purchase that they ever made. They just like literally won the lottery with that shit.
They could have had the entire Marvel roster, I believe, for like $4 million back in the day. Back in the day when Marvel was in those days of easily going bankrupt and ceasing to be a company anymore. And Sony basically told them, nobody cares about any of the other characters other than Spider-Man. That's who we want. That we want the full film rights to Spider-Man. And at the end of the day, that's what they got.
And they did decent with them.
Yeah.
And I love that they made it in there. Like, you have to make a Spider-Man film every 3 years. It was just like comfortable. It's like every couple of years you get a Spider-Man film. Like, it was chill.
Well, that's how contracts
work. Hopefully it'll be like that again now with dueling Spider-Man films.
Yeah, it's.
I do believe I had just read that they confirmed Miles Morales casting for the next Spider-Man. They confirmed who's going to be playing. I didn't see who it was though. I just saw the headline.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just hope it doesn't become stale and overexposed like Star Wars has, since the mouse stepped in and reared his ugly head.
Yeah. Star Wars is so bad. Like, Boba Fett ended today, and I haven't seen it yet. I saw one of the episodes that was absolutely amazing, but I didn't see the episode before that.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of it. Like I said,
I've seen like the middle one of the last three ones.
Yeah.
So, but it's like, dude, I should be like watching that right away, just like the Marvel movies. But it's like, after The Last Jedi, it can wait. Like Star Wars is just kind of like that for me. It's just like, when I get to it, I get to it.
The Last Jedi was them thinking that they could boldly go where Star Wars had never gone before by essentially betraying their hero and taking away a redemption arc of one of the most beloved villains of all time in Darth Vader. But Rise of Skywalker just flat out showed that they do not care. At that point, they were just trying to please as many people as they could to bring in box office revenue. And it ultimately did not work for them because they lost money on that one too. So, and if The Last Jedi was the one that like completely raped the franchise, then Rise of Skywalker is just the aftermath where you're just standing there like, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah.
Like it's the shock and the acceptance phase all at the same time.
I didn't mean to get distracted on Star Wars. I just wanted to point out that bah humbug. I could feel it.
But yeah, so Marvel, I think the very last one to come out was Spider-Man 3. And then like, okay, well, surely they're going to make a 4, and that was the rumor for years. But before we get to that, this little movie came out in 2008 called Iron Man. And at the time, nobody knew what the studio was planning to do and where it was going in the long term of things. All we knew is that we were getting another Marvel movie. And that was it. We didn't think anything about something interconnecting with other movies to create a massive, expansive universe.
That didn't really even exist at that time. That wasn't a thing that ever existed.
The universe we talked about last week, the DCAU, that was really the first one to do it. to do that. But
Yeah, I think you're right.
But this was taking was taking like actual movies, like live action movies, and trying to connect the dots and trying to explain to the audience this isn't just like a one-off movie. This is like a universe. So like whatever story we tell next, it's taking place in this same universe. But of course, we did not know this until and we'll get to it. So let's start off with the very first one to start it all. Iron Man.
So we're just gonna say Iron Man. We're just gonna pretend like Hulk didn't happen, or
Hulk came after.
Incredible Hulk
Yes.
came after Iron Man.
Yes. So we had Iron Man, which came out on May 2nd, 2008. Now, where were you when this movie came out? Was this one that you saw on opening day?
Iron Man is not, because I remember going out to dinner with my brother and my brother talking about it and me being like, "Oh, I can't wait to see it."
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think Iron Man might have been a couple of months before I had seen it. You know, like, I don't think I saw it right away. No.
Okay.
I know Incredible Hulk I saw right away, and I love the Hulk because I have the Ang Lee Hulk. I've got all the Hulk movies
Yeah.
somewhere, but
I just remember that Hulk being very long, and it was off-putting that he was fighting these ugly-looking mutant dogs, and just like I was 11 when that movie came out, so it's not like I was scared or anything, but I was just like, oh, this is ugh. The effects did not look very good.
yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was back then.
Yeah.
I was always into weirder shit, so I definitely enjoyed it. But yeah, I don't remember where I was for Iron Man when I first saw it. And I'll be honest, no, I do remember the plot mostly. I think I rewatched those a couple of times. But Iron Man is probably my least favorite. Like, I love watching Iron Man in other movies, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's yeah, I don't remember where I was the first time.
Well, like everyone else, Iron Man really captivated me because of Robert Downey Jr.'s performance as Tony Stark.
That is true. Never
This
was a man born for a role like that.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's to this day the ultimate comeback story in Hollywood for an actor. Like you talk about someone who had fallen from grace and was just whenever his name would pop up in the tabloids, just be like, oh no, what's he up to? What's going on with him now?
Yeah.
You know, he was
the tabloids.
I'm not saying he was Charlie Sheen levels, but he had done enough to get really close. So yeah. And I just remember that all the lines that he was delivering, like he was really living that character. And come to find out years later that a lot of the script for Iron Man was actually ad-libbed, which I thought was crazy to think like, oh yeah, we're gonna go out and shoot this big movie for Marvel. It's literally their last attempt to really get their foot in the door for being relevant in Hollywood. And if it doesn't succeed, well then goodbye Marvel Studios. And then here comes Jon Favreau, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I want you to literally write the script. Like you write your own lines." And I'm just saying, Hollywood is so protective of the money that it uses to make movies, and an idea like that,
a huge risk.
Yeah, exactly. It just would not work today because there's always
put all the responsibility on the junkie, you know.
Yeah,
just got out of prison.
Yeah, man. It's crazy.
I still can't believe Jon Favreau is the one. He's like the chosen one, like with Marvel and DC. Because when I was taking like stuff in high school, taking audio video, and we were watching Jon Favreau. What was it, Swingers, I guess? And I think there's one other movie he did that was like kind of a comedy drama. And but yeah, I like my audio video teacher was the one who actually got me into Jon Favreau, and now just to see his name like all over Star Wars, all over Marvel. He's even playing a character in the MCU. Like, it's kind of fantastic.
Yeah, I personally believe that he is the one director slash creator that could be in the conversation as to who is the next Spielberg. Because if you look at his catalog of movies, you go,
You know
oh,
what? That's a damn good point. I would have to agree.
because
That's
if
some
you
lofty shoes to fill. We need someone who wasn't on Epstein's island to fill those.
yeah, where they were making hearts explode.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, yeah, because if you look at Favreau's catalog of movies that he's made, you go, "Oh my God, that was a hit. That was a hit. That was a classic." And it's just like it's no wonder they picked him to make Iron Man, which just kicked off this huge experiment no other studio had ever tried before. I guess you could say the Universal Monsters universe with like Dracula and the Mummy and the Wolfman and all that has been, well, that was more or less a copy attempt after what Marvel proved that you could do. But every
How
single
far
time.
did they get with those? Are you talking about the recent one, or are you talking about the original?
So the furthest that they got.
Because I heard that they were gonna do one, and they even had like a vampire movie with like Tom Cruise or some shit. But like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
never saw the movies.
So the furthest that they got was literally the reboot of The Mummy with Tom Cruise,
Yeah,
which
that one.
which became a meme, and it was so funny because they have Russell Crowe come in and he's acting like the guy who's going to like connect this all together. He was playing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and you can clearly see what they're trying to do by copying off of Marvel's formula, and it's just laughable because you're like, oh my gosh, all these studios are just so desperate. They want that Marvel money, but they just don't really have the properties to do it
Yeah, I would
unless you.
love to rewatch The Invisible Man.
I
Maybe
think
make it into a spy drama. Like that would be kind of incredible.
that was another one where people were really trying to. I think they're trying to make that one connect, but I didn't see it, so I don't know. But yeah, man. So Iron Man, we start off, and it's obviously a post 9/11 world. They're in the Middle East, and he's hanging out with these soldiers, and taking a picture. And this was before the term selfie was even a thing.
No way.
So
Really?
yeah. So and then all of a sudden they're getting shot at, and IEDs are going off, and all of a sudden they get bombed, and Tony takes a hit, and he gets some shrapnel in his chest, and you're just like, oh man, what's happening? Where is this going? And it turns out the shrapnel came from a missile made by his father's company. The irony, huh?
Yeah. And those missiles fucked up a lot of people. Those fucked up Wanda later on.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. We'll get there. So yeah. So now you're like, oh my gosh, how is this guy gonna get out of it? He's stuck in this cave, and these people want to kill him. They got surveillance on him at all times. They just want him to make a missile. They want him to make a weapon that they can use against the U.S. Army or any other enemy that they have. And you're just like, oh my gosh, how's this guy going to get out of this? And all of a sudden, he starts making a freaking suit of armor. And you're like, what the hell? What is going on here? And then pretty soon, because like, I'm not going to lie, man, when he's building that armor and he's yet to escape from those terrorists, I got anxiety because I was like, oh my gosh, I could never imagine.
I'm getting anxiety talking about it. I'm like, damn, like, what's he gonna, how's he gonna hide that, really? Like, I'm making a suit, he's like, oh, I'm gonna give you the suit, but he didn't give him the suit. He killed them all.
Well, not only that, but it's like you got like a one shot, and if this doesn't work, you're dead.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's crazy. And of course, as we all know, what happens is he does get away, and he literally lights some guys up on fire, and he just takes off the desert and crashes, and that's where he gets found by his buddy Rhodey. the original Rhodes, played by Terrence Howard, who did not last very long in this universe, did he?
No. Now he's still like his new actor's still around.
Oh yeah,
I
we'll
like
get
the
there.
original Rhodey though.
I did too.
He had like more personality, I think, than the new ones. I think the new one's a little dry.
He's a better actor. The problem is Robert Downey
Wait,
Jr.'s star was so dim at the time that the biggest star that they had for that movie was Terrence Howard, and he was the one requesting uh, the most money, and he was basically the one that the studio was marketing off of because the movie had not come out yet. Nobody knew what kind of performance Robert Downey Jr. was going to give. So it's crazy to think about, and that's pretty much what happened when they were making the sequel. And the reason why he left is because he just asked for too much money, and they're like, we had a huge hit on our hands with Iron Man, and Robert is clearly our star, and listen to me, I'm getting them mixed up just talking about it because Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark, just like
yeah.
how Christopher Reeve was Superman, or you name it. Tobey Maguire is Spider-Man. You know, it's just that's what's so great about casting is when you completely nail it, they're forever known as those characters, and it's because of how believable that they are. And
I
they
watch a
don't.
lot of like charisma videos and stuff like that.
Yeah,
To help better communication, like talking to people, like stuff like that. And I swear to God, Robert Downey Jr. is like I've seen so many breakdowns of just like his body language and his movement for like alpha male shit.
yeah.
Like the alphaest of the alpha is like Robert Downey Jr. And it's just like study the way Robert Downey Jr. handles situations and deal with life like that, you know?
Oh yeah, when he basically was getting interviewed by that one guy and he was making him feel uncomfortable, rather than start anything, he just said, "Okay, we're done here," and he walked off like a Chad. And it's like, I'm not getting trapped by the media. You're not going to put me in a position to make me feel uncomfortable because the question you're asking is absolutely ridiculous and it's got nothing to do for why I'm here promoting this movie.
What was the question? Was it about drugs and his legal
I
past?
Yeah, I think so. That's what it was. And he was like, "Nah, man, nah, fool. I've moved on from that. That's not my life anymore. And I wish you'd quit bringing it up."
Yeah, it would be hella annoying.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
it is when you're
And
when
when
I'm
you see
fighting with my
Robert,
parents and they bring up the shit I did in the past. Like, dude, that was like fucking years ago. Such a different person now.
yeah, yeah, man. And it's like I watched Robert Downey Jr.'s entire interview with Joe Rogan, and he couldn't have been any cooler and laid back and just free to talk about anything. And then that's because Joe has that effect on people. He just makes them really uncomfortable. He just makes them feel really comfortable. I was like, "Yeah, man, we're just gonna sit here and talk. I'm gonna get high, or whatever, and yeah, let's go." And
Yeah, he
that's
just makes people feel good and they diss.
mhm.
They're like, here's all my secrets.
So, were there any scenes to you that stood out in the first Iron Man?
Really, man, it's that making the suit.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that. Like I said, it was making me nervous just thinking about it right now. You know, like they build that anxiety into it, and we were thinking like, what would we do if we were in that situation? And it's like, yeah, that whole original scene.
Mhm.
The final fight was all right.
Yeah.
I remember liking it, but like really wanting what we get on like final fights nowadays in a Marvel movie. Like I was really wanting like kind of like Iron Man 2 where there's like a bunch of people fighting, a bunch of I think in Iron Man 2 it's him and Rhodey versus like hundreds of robots. That's
Yes.
kind of what I wanted in the end of episode 1, but there was just like 2 big robots slugging it out, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah, because it was the first MCU movie, they were just kind of limited in the budget.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, the final fight is going to be he's inside the building. Now he's outside the building. And now they're on the roof of the building. And then the suit's going to malfunction. And Obadiah is going to die. So, boom. There you go. There's the. There, that's your movie right there. Oh, and then we're gonna play that Black Sabbath song at the end at the credits because, of course,
Because I am Iron Man.
did it make sense to you that Tony would straight up in front of that press conference at the end just say, "I am Iron Man"? Like, yeah.
Well, the
it's
thing
me,
is,
bitch.
first off, I'd already read Civil War comics at the
Oh
point
yeah, well
when they
that's
came out.
yeah,
So, and it was like, and I just remember that I am Spider-Man scene in Civil War,
yeah,
and it was kind of like feel like it took that whole scene, but gave it to Iron Man. And I think it did fit. Uh, I think it was kind of cool that we thought it was going to be a secret, like no one knew that he's just like, no, I'm Iron Man,
yeah.
and then just like became like the superhero celebrity.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm trying to remember the Stan Lee cameo in this one. Wasn't he Hugh Hefner? Or was he Larry King? I can't remember. I think it was Larry King.
I don't remember what you're talking about. It's been a long time. I didn't get to prep for this one, so
Oh no, that's okay.
it had been a long time. So what was
But
the next one? It was Thor,
the
right?
no, it was the Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton. And this
Man,
one was put out by Universal while Iron Man was put out by Paramount. See, Disney had bought Marvel in 2006, but I think for like the film rights to be relinquished to them, it still took some time before they were able to actually do it. Because the very first Marvel movie that Disney ever distributed was The Avengers in 2012. So
Oh,
there you
really?
go. Yeah. So yeah, the first 5 MCU movies were Paramount.
No way. I didn't know that
Yep.
until Marvel was bought by Disney.
Marvel
And
had
Kevin
already been
Feige was still behind the man behind the curtain on that.
Kevin Feige has been a part of Marvel movies that predate the MCU. He was there for X-Men. I believe he was there for Spider-Man. He was there for probably all of them almost.
It
So
would be awesome to have his job. Be like a super fan, like, hey, I just like, control the like Marvel
yeah.
universe. Like, I'm kind of
So
like
yeah,
Doctor
it's
Doom in Secret Wars. I'm God, but only in the Marvel universe.
yeah. So Marvel is off to the races. They've had a huge hit with Iron Man. People cannot stop talking about how great Robert Downey Jr. is, and things are really starting to kick off for them. And then a little bit over a month later, in the summer of 2008, we get The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton. Now, you were telling me how much you love this movie. What did you like about it?
Well, first off, it was like it was slow and dark and like that I felt like it took off after the 70s TV show.
Okay.
So here's the Hulk storyline in my brain. Like it starts out with the Ang Lee version, and that's the intro, and then the 70s TV show is like happens right before this version of the Incredible Hulk. So he's like in the desert, like he's because remember that the TV show he was always like trying to run away to different parts of the country because he's trying to like escape himself and not destroy the whole world, and the government was after him. So he was always on the run, basically. Do you remember the 70s TV show?
Oh, I've seen some of it.
So
Yeah.
I imagined that version of Incredible Hulk was the sequel to the 70s show. So like to me, like all the talking and that's how that original '70s show was. There's like stuff going on at the beginning. They get everything set, and at one point the Hulk comes out. When the Hulk comes out, he's not happy. He doesn't go away. So it was literally set up like one of those '70s shows. So I do remember it being like, damn, this is kind of like slow and stuff, but like I really like the depth of character it gave Bruce Banner. Uh,
Okay.
I really don't like the new Bruce Banner. I think he's probably the worst thing about the MCU. I don't like him as an actor. I don't like him as a person. I don't like him as a Hulk. But anyway, sorry,
Well,
but
he's a pedo sympathizer, but yeah. Anyway,
yeah, he has some pretty horrid views in the world.
yeah,
But
but but he's not even in the picture yet. So
yeah, but so I really liked that Bruce Banner. Like that's my Bruce Banner personally. And yeah, that final fight, that's a final fight, man. Destroying Las Vegas, like, two monsters battling in the streets, just like, man, that shit
oh,
was
they were
amazing.
in New York. So they were in Harlem when that fight went down with Abomination.
Yeah. And I'm glad Abomination's coming back.
Yeah.
He sounds like he's gonna be in Thunderbolts.
Well, speaking of Thunderbolts, Thunderbolt Ross in this movie, he's one of the biggest pricks I think I've ever seen in films because when he comes back in Civil War, he's still bitter and I'm doing this for my country, but he's like corrupt and just asshole-ish.
Yeah. Yeah, but he makes a great villain, and he's gonna make a great Red Hulk.
You, yeah, that'll be interesting if that
I
ever
think I
comes
think at
about.
this point he might have actually racked up more movies than RDJ. Damn. How many movies has he been in compared to Robert Downey?
Robert has been in at least 7, and William Hurt's been Thunderbolt Ross. He's only been in 2.
Oh,
So,
really?
no, I take that back. At least
He's in a
3.
couple episodes of Agents of Shield though too.
Oh well, yeah. There's that too. So, but no. So just like at the end of Iron Man with the end credits where Nick Fury's literally just standing in his living room, and Tony's like, "Who the hell are you?" And then he's like, "Nick Fury, director of Shield. I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative." And to a lot of people, they're just like, "Huh?" But to comic book fans, they were like, "Oh my god, is this what they're trying to do? Is this
Yeah.
is this like one big setup to get these guys together on the screen?" And you don't know what's going on. And then at the end of this Hulk movie, Thunderbolt Ross is in the bar having a drink, sulking that he can't find Bruce because he's escaped again. And in walks Tony Stark. And that was probably the first moment for me where I went, holy shit. That's what they're doing. This is going down. This is going to happen. Because it had been rumors on the internet, but with that scene alone, you just go, okay, these movies are connected. We're building to something. Here we go. And I cannot tell you the excitement on my face when Robert Downey Jr. showed up on screen to talk to him at the end of that Hulk movie. So yeah, that was a big moment for me because up to that point that had never really been done before. To take a main character from a different movie and place him in a movie from the same studio. It was like, what? Yeah. Because up to this point, you didn't know if they were connected. You just thought, okay, we're getting an Iron Man movie, and then we're getting another Hulk movie, and thought nothing of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, let's fast forward to a couple of years later.
Iron Man 2, right?
Iron Man 2.
That came out before Thor. I remember that one.
Yep. And this was actually the very first MCU movie that I had ever seen. No. Wait, I take that back. It was the first one I saw in theaters.
So Iron Man 2 had that younger kid, right? That was the one that had the younger kid. Who was the villain? It wasn't the Whiplash guy. That was Iron Man 3. I'm trying to remember Iron Man 2.
No. Whiplash was Iron Man 2. it was Whiplash
Mandarin
and
in Iron Man 3. Oh yeah, okay,
yeah, yeah,
Whiplash.
yeah,
Okay, no, I totally remember Iron Man 2.
yeah. It was Whiplash and Justin Hammer.
Yeah. Justin Hammers needs to make a return. I would like
He's
to see
I
Justin Hammer and some Norman Osborn like working together or some shit.
Yeah, I've heard that he's going to. So
I have to. I forgot what. Oh, Armor Wars. He's coming back in Armor Wars.
yes, I believe so.
So, are
Uh-huh.
you aware of what they're doing with Armor Wars?
Well, I know Armor Wars is an Iron Man arc in the comics.
Yeah, it's all Rhodey. Rhodey's the main character
Okay.
of that one, but I'm pretty sure Falcon's going to be in there. I'm pretty sure, but they're doing it in this one. They're doing it different. They're doing like an actual movie, like that's going to set up. I think it's after. It's either after or before Secret Invasion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope it's after because it's
So
before.
yeah, so my footsteps into the MCU were as follows. Went over to my buddy's house. He's like, "Hey, have you ever seen Iron Man?" I said, "No, I haven't." And he's like, "Okay, well, we're definitely gonna watch that." I said, "Oh, okay." And I remember watching it, and then I saw the end credits, and I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then I found out that because and he had me watch it because Iron Man 2 was soon to come out in theaters, and he wanted me to go see it with him. So I was like, "Okay, cool." So then I went and saw Iron Man 2, and then I was like, "Okay, nice, nice." And then I figured, well, if I've already seen the two Iron Mans, I need to go back and watch the Incredible Hulk, and that's what I did. So that was kind of like not necessarily in the right order, but eventually I got to seeing them all. What I liked about this Hulk is, yeah, I really did like Edward Norton as Bruce Banner. He had an interesting take on the character. It's just unfortunate he was an ass behind the scenes.
It was a
And
struggle to be Bruce Banner. Like it wasn't easy to be Bruce Banner. Like
oh
Bruce
yeah,
Banner hurt. Bruce Banner's going through some shit.
oh yeah, man.
And I think that's the new Kane Bruce Banner is just like he's a joke. Like I'll be honest, that's the one thing about Thor Ragnarok. I fucking despise the way they treated Bruce and the Hulk.
Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. That's
I
like,
know, but I'm just saying. I don't like this new Bruce Banner. But
yeah,
anyway,
that was still 9 years away. So I thought it was really funny that one of the that was another good Stan Lee cameo when he's like entering the school to like get the flash drive and like take a look at the contents of it. You see Stan Lee as a security guard, and he's talking to none other than Lou Ferrigno, the voice of the Hulk.
oh yes, and they're both security guards.
Yes,
Not just the voice; he's the actor that played the body of the Hulk.
in the TV show, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I the scene where the military goes up against him on the school grounds was awesome. I thought that
Yep,
was
that's
really.
so one of the classic scenes. They just remade it in another movie.
Oh, did they?
What the fuck? I swear to God, I just watched the movie the other day. Anyway, I'll have to go re-see it. But yeah, they used that entire scene in a more recent Marvel movie, and I forget which movie. I just know I saw it.
Interesting,
Noted it.
huh? But yeah, I thought this one really worked out. I loved the I loved the scene where he was working at the bottling plant, and he happened to get his blood uh, contaminated with one of the drinks that they made, and it was none other than Stanley who picked up that exact bottle, and it like I don't know, gave him Hulk powers. I'm not really sure. Oh man. But what's really funny about this movie is that when people talk about the MCU, it's just forgotten. They don't bring it up. And I think a lot of that has to do with the falling out with Edward Norton when it came time to cast for the Avengers. But
Right.
I still very much consider it part of the MCU. I mean, hello, Tony
I
Stark
very
appears
much
at
do.
the
I
very end.
consider the '70s part. That's why I was like, when I found out that the DC animated universe and the DC movie animated universe were different, I was just like, I don't care because they're still the same to me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like in Marvel, like I think especially with the Hulk, I think all of the Hulk properties go together. You
Hmm.
know, you know they're working
Yeah.
on the
I.
next Hulk. That you know who's doing. I'm sorry, this isn't a spoiler though. You know who's doing World War Hulk? I do believe Zack Snyder is in charge of that property.
Oh, geez, really?
Yeah, they're giving him free reign on a Hulk destroys the world like movie, where it's the
Well, if,
whole world versus Hulk.
well, if there's anyone who knows a thing about destruction, it's Zack Snyder, and
I
that's
think
not
that's
my.
kind of what they were thinking, and it's probably something that's going to have to be like multiversal glitched afterwards because you can't
Yeah.
have him
True.
destroy the universe.
Oh no. Well, yeah, but I don't know. In order to do World War Hulk, you need to get the Planet Hulk part right. And I know that they attempted it at Ragnarok, but it wasn't really
What I've read is he goes back to Sakaar
okay.
this time because the original time he went there willingly, and this time he goes there unwillingly.
Okay,
And they
then
are
maybe.
bringing the Illuminati into Doctor Strange.
Oh, that's gonna be good.
Oh, I haven't told you?
Yeah, so don't say anymore.
Oh, really? You don't want to know who it is?
Nope. You want to know things. I don't.
I love knowing things. This is okay. I apologize if I spoil things because I definitely spoil things.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You can it's this is not a path you have to go down. You can still change. It's okay. Uh
Well, to
so
me, it's like all fake until it's real. And so I imagine all of it, and then I go see. I'm like, oh, that's what they ended up doing. So it's like I don't care whether I saw something. Like I'll be like, oh man, those guys were right, you know, and then like,
yeah,
oh man, those guys were not right because half
right,
of
right.
them, you don't know which ones are going to be right, which ones are going to be wrong, and half of them have like half good information and half bullshit, you know.
Yeah. Uh so one of the really cool shots in this movie is when after he has run off with Betty away from the military and he's like underneath uh like a like a cliff, kind of like in a cave, and it's the Hulk and he's standing out there and it's raining and then like the lightning
Yeah,
uh strikes and then you can just see him in the dark all in all his green glory and oh it's so cool. Really good shot there.
that
Uh
was kind of like the King Kong
yeah.
with the girl scene, you know? It's
Yeah,
like the heart of the monster.
very much so, yes.
Yeah, that was very good. Yeah, absolutely love that film. And
Yeah.
then
So then we get our end credit scene for that one, and it turns out that oh yeah. So we already talked about that. Never mind, I'm getting
yeah,
that confused. Yeah, so then we go to Iron Man 2, and we got Whiplash and Justin Hammer. Now I did like this movie. Um it's not one of my favorites, but I can definitely understand why a lot of people consider it one of the weaker attempts in the MCU. I think they just I think what mostly happened is they got too of a head too quickly. Because like you have just like and a lot of studios are guilty of this. They're like, oh well, we have one huge hit in our on our hands. We're going to be fine for the rest of our projects. No, you need to. You're still in your early days. You need to be careful here.
yeah.
And I don't know if it was the casting of Mickey Rourke or replacing with Don Cheadle as Rhodey, or just them trying to do the demon in a bottle storyline, but not necessarily giving Tony a drinking problem. It was more or less this stuff inside my chest, it's killing me, so I'm just going to have fun and party until I die. And it just, the part where Nick Fury runs into him at the donut shop, it just it hits a slog, and it's just like a slow period during that film where you're like, okay, what's really going on here? What's going on? You know?
Yeah.
I will say the best part of this, though, is getting introduced to Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow.
Oh yes, and her intro in that fight scene, she whoops his ass. That was
Yes.
good to see, just to know that like Black Widow can like whoop Iron Man's ass without that suit, because he can't do it with it on.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but are you telling me that there was a strong woman character in this movie?
Yeah, that wasn't cheesy or lame or felt off.
I didn't know those existed. I thought we still had to wait for The Force Awakens or
Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
So we had strong women characters.
Yeah, it's funny. And then we also meet Phil Coulson, who would become the glue for these movies, because what they started doing with Iron Man 2 is he'd be like, okay, well, things are good here. You've been taken care of. I got to head off to New Mexico. And you're like, I wonder what's in New Mexico. And then we get to the end credits scene, and it turns out he's there because they found Thor's hammer.
Yeah.
And for longtime Marvel fans, I cannot imagine the excitement on their face when that happened.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. That's when you really knew shit was going down.
Oh yeah.
I'll do say one of the things that is bizarre to me about Iron Man 2. What was the kid's character that he brought into it?
The kid character?
Yeah, he had a teenage, not teenage, like he was even younger than teenage. He was like 12, 13-year-old, like sidekick during that movie. Was it that movie or was this part 3?
That's part 3.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and finish my thought on it. That character became completely underutilized. That character was just like introduced into, the world, and then he was at the funeral next. You know what I'm saying? Seems like, I mean, maybe he'll be coming in Ironheart. I have a feeling that maybe something like that's going to happen. He'll be in Ironheart or something.
No, I don't think so. I think they're going the Riri Williams.
But it just seems very odd to create that character and to bring him back for Tony's funeral, but not use him. Like, that kid was perfect. He could have been like, teenage Iron Boy instead of Peter Parker.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Peter Parker, because this is our first appearance of Peter in the MCU. And do you remember
in part 2, right?
Yeah, Iron Man 2.
Yes, that's a fan theory. I don't know if that's actual.
It was confirmed by Feige.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Peter Parker getting he was like fighting off the bad guy, right? What was the scene again?
So it's towards the end of the movie. They're at the Stark Expo, and Justin Hammer has just given his presentation, where they've essentially copied off of the Iron Man suit and made their own, but they made it for the military, and they perfected it, because at the very beginning of the movie, Tony's just trying to keep the government basically out of his own suit, Yeah. And because he goes, I have literally privatized world peace, like the Chad that he is. And then people are like, oh, well, this is a problem. We need to get our hands on that. And then, so anyway, fast forward, and we're towards the part where these suits, they're going out of control, all thanks to Ivan Drago, aka Whiplash, who's controlling them all from his own place. And
with the
And
parrot.
one of them touches down, and he's like, they're like aiming their I don't want to say not not cannon, but like what weapon did they have? You
The
know,
plasma cannons.
uh, mate,
That was
no,
Iron Man's.
okay, well, yeah. Anyway, this robot's about to shoot this little kid, and he's wearing an Iron Man helmet. And then the real Iron Man shows up behind him just as he like puts his hand out to blast him. And Tony does it to make the little kid seem like he was the one who took out the robot. And we don't know who the identity of this little kid is until years later when the architect of the MCU and the Godfather in the MCU basically comes out and says, "Yeah, that was Peter. That was Peter Parker." Like, holy crap! So it makes me wonder how much they've been withholding. Like, how much have they had planned for years? Because that's not one of those, oh, well, that's BS. I think they purposely did put that scene in there.
Yeah, because I
Like,
don't think they had the rights yet for Spider-Man.
no, they didn't. So they obviously couldn't say anything. They couldn't have like an Aunt May voice be like, Peter, get over here, or something like that. Because then,
Yeah,
well, when it comes to Marvel, when you hear the name Peter, you're like, well, who else could it be?
yeah.
Because nobody, let's
There's
face
only one
it,
Peter.
let's face it, no one knew who Peter Quill was to that point.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah. So that movie. So I did really like the part where he goes to Monaco and he races the car. I thought that was really cool. And then the little fight on the speedway.
Yeah.
How he like freaking takes the briefcase and like suits up that way. I thought that was really cool. That was
Yeah, that whole scene was absolutely fire.
yeah, and to me, Whiplash was underutilized too because they use him for that one scene, and then the rest of the time they like arrest him. Justin Hammer bails him out, and then towards the end he shows up, but he's like in his own little suit with his little whips and everything. But that fight doesn't last very long. He's not in that movie all that much.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the main reasons why it gets so much criticism, why that was not that great of a villain. I was like, well, I agree. If the villain's not all that present and you can't really feel his presence with whatever's going on in the background, then yeah, he's probably not being utilized very much.
Right.
I did like Justin Hammer, though. He was the perfect amount of prick. But then again,
He was definitely funny too.
Yeah, Sam Rockwell always plays those kinds of roles, though. He was the same way in Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I don't know if you saw that movie, but that was a great movie too.
I would just love to see him team up with Norman Osborn.
Well, you never know. So yeah, we've now Shield has gone out to New Mexico, and there's this hammer in the desert. Who could that be? Well, who else than Thor?
It's going to be the first appearance of the best Avenger of all time, Hawkeye.
Yes, yeah.
Hawkeye was in it.
Yep, he nonchalantly shows up for just a little bit of cameo there. But yeah, I had only heard of Thor as like Norse mythology, but didn't really know anything about the Marvel side of him. How familiar were you with Thor before that movie came out?
Comic books, dude. I had the ones with Thor. What's the oh shoot. Billy Ray, whatever. What's his name? The Horse Thor.
Oh, yeah. What the Horse Thor? You're such a boomer.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm all blanking on it, man. But I read those storylines. I read a bunch of Thor, and I read like Galactic Storm and some other. But I was fully I loved Thor stuff. But I thought I didn't know how they were going to make it into a movie because I always looked at it as almost fantasy too. Like even in the comic, it'd be in the real world, but it just seemed so over the top fantasy.
Yeah.
So I thought my early things was I don't know if that's going to translate good to film. but it did, and it looked great, and it was fun. And my favorite thing about that movie was the Warriors 3, because I
They
loved them in the
were
comics.
oh, Lady Sif is Bay, dude. Like she was underutilized as that franchise went on. I really missed seeing Lady Sif. She was so good. There you go again, another strong woman.
It
Huh.
seems like a theme or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But I
Plus,
remember
my celebrity crush was in this movie.
Natalie Portman.
No, that was probably one of my earlier childhood crushes when I was a kid.
Okay.
But no, my new celebrity crush, the other girl, the one from Two Broke Girls.
Kat Dennings. Yes.
Yes, I'm in
Marcy.
love.
I've loved her since Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist. It was a romantic comedy that she starred in with Michael Cera. Uh, so that was a really good movie. And then she's also been in some other things that she's just adorable. She's so good at
Yeah.
just playing that ditzy, but not
Yeah, she was a
necessarily.
lot of fun in that movie and in WandaVision,
Yeah,
like bringing the character back. I was like,
I
hell
would
yeah.
have loved a series with her and Monica Rambeau and that Asian guy that was part of the FBI or whatever, you know?
Yeah. I do hope he gets something.
Or
Like, I
was he
think
or,
in the comics, I do believe in the current run that that character runs like a what was I reading about him? That character runs a spy agency, not a spy agency, like a ghost agency, like Ghostbusters,
Oh,
kind of
okay.
like a paranormal agency
Yeah.
for the government, like kind of like X-Files, basically.
Uh-huh.
And he's put in charge of it, and it's
Hmm.
got superheroes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Um, yeah, so I just remember so this is now my second MCU movie that I have seen in theaters, and I did see it on opening day. I don't think I saw Iron Man 2 on opening day, but yeah, I just remember seeing Asgard for the very first time and just went, "Holy shit!" They put a lot of work and effort
Yeah.
into
Really
making this
detailed,
place
really gorgeous
look good.
scenery there.
I couldn't believe it. It must have taken them at least close to a year alone to develop all that. That was just
The Rainbow Road,
oh my
it
gosh,
looks
it was
so good.
all of it. It was just so beautiful. Like, the amount of detail was incredible. And then of course getting to see Anthony Hopkins as Odin. He's just one of the most talented actors that has ever lived, and just so good. Perfect casting right there.
Can't talk about Anthony Hopkins and not mention my favorite movie that he's in,
What's that?
Instinct.
Oh, okay.
It was based off of the novel Ishmael.
Hmm.
That was like, like kind of, environmental activism book that's like a novel. But it was about a monkey that would talk to its master, like a gorilla, and the gorilla learns how to read and then teaches his master, and then so this gorilla goes out in the world to like teach people how to be good people, but they realized that that wouldn't work good for a movie, so instead they made Anthony Hopkins a serial killer who ended up like living with the monkeys, and then he was like hunting down and killing poachers,
Oh
and
my.
they arrest him, and they do like the Criminal Minds stuff. So anyway,
Ooh.
that's a really good film if anyone hasn't seen it, and Anthony Hopkins does a fabulous job in it.
Well, and you're talking about someone who revitalized his career in a role that won him a freaking Oscar for having less than 20 minutes of screen time.
Which one is that?
Silence of the Lambs, man.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, when it comes to Anthony Hopkins, it's all about Hannibal Lecter. He's just incredible as
Yes.
that character. Like, ah, so good. Uh so yeah, Thor. this was another one that I really liked. The whole idea of a hero being stripped of his abilities, kind of losing his way. It kind of reminded me of the Disney Hercules
Yep.
movie in a way too,
I never
and I
thought about
love
that.
that one. I love that movie.
Oh shit, we're running low on battery. Plug in.
Well, let's not have a climactic ending. Why don't you plug that in?
Yeah, let's not do that. All right, we got you.
Yeah, all good, all good. What's really funny is a fun fact that so New Mexico is where they shot Thor, but they also shot part like that opening sequence in the Avengers there too. And it just so happens that while they were shooting that, like right next to them was another stage where they were shooting Breaking Bad. And
Really?
yeah, and and Samuel L. Jackson thought it would be really funny to sneak onto the set and like have like a sort of like a Nick Fury cameo, like, or just something where he would just like be walking around and he would just walk by someone on the street or something like that. But ultimately, it was never going to work out, and the people were like, yeah, no. So,
He just wanted Nick Fury to be in Breaking Bad.
well, he would have probably just been like a guy in an eye patch or something, but the writers and I think the director was just like, yeah, no, that's not gonna work. Because hello, it's Samuel L.
Because they're
Jackson.
trying to, yeah, they're definitely trying. That would distract from the actual realism because it's like that's such a serious show, you
Oh
know.
yeah, man.
I wouldn't
And
put a sight gag in a serious show.
yeah, exactly. But he thought, oh, I'm gonna sneak onto the set of Breaking Bad, and I would have loved it. It would have been great, but yeah, it would have just taken away from one of the scenes because the creators and the writers, the all those people involved on that show, they took it very seriously, and there's a reason why it's considered one of the greatest, if not the best, television show that's ever been made. So, personally, to me, it is. But yeah,
Have
so
to agree. I never got so sucked into a show. Like I would get I was working a lot. I was working like 10-hour days and I would like get off and I'd immediately watch and I'd watch it till I go to bed and then I'd wake up early and I'd watch while I'd get ready for bed for work. And then I'd watch at lunch. My entire life was just watching that damn show because I wanted to get to the end because I heard it was so good. And every episode got better.
oh yeah, man, it's very rare for a show that the more it goes, its audience builds, but that's exactly what happened. And a lot of that is thanks to Netflix.
It was on Netflix or wasn't it originally on cable?
It was originally on AMC, but when it was put out on Netflix, like seasons long, and people started watching and binging, it was really, I think, the show that kicked off the binging spree
Yeah,
for
that's for sure. I'd definitely binge the hell out of it.
Netflix, because I got to tell you, as one of the people who did it, um, that summer before the final season aired, everyone was binging Breaking Bad just to get to the end to see what was going to happen.
Yep.
So, yeah, but anyway, we're off on another one of our infamous tangents.
Yes.
Yeah, Thor. I thought I really did like
Breaking Bad.
Loki, and he did strike me as like a big bad villain for like a future movie.
Who didn't?
And Loki,
Yeah.
yeah, he Tom Hiddleston did a really good job with his character, and Chris Hemsworth. I mean, who had really heard of him before this? You know?
I hadn't, no.
Yeah, no, this was pretty much the movie that cemented him as a
But
huge
again, perfect casting.
A-lister. Oh my gosh, he was so good. I mean, just the way he delivered his lines, and I love when he's on when he's on Earth and they're having coffee in the coffee shop, and he's like, "This drink, I like it. Another." That was like one of the first memes to come out of the MCU that everyone quoted, and
What, when
Another
he
one of
threw
my
the cup on the ground?
yes. Another. I was like, this drink, I like it. Another. And then when he frickin' walks into the pet shop and he goes, I need a horse. Oh man. Oh man.
The fact that we can't just go out and buy horses is very sad, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah. So what really stood out to you about this movie that struck you different from the other ones that came out in the MCU?
It was fun. It
Yeah.
was like so much fun. Like, oh, what was the thing that shot the blaster? You know, the giant alien machine,
Oh, the Destroyer.
the
Yeah.
destroyer. Yeah, the fight with the destroyer. It was like super cartoony. Like the Warriors 3 were goofy and like, but it was heartfelt, charming. I feel like you know, a reviewer, a critic, but it was like heartfelt. It was charming. It was like fun. It was just like it didn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
Like just like Thor wasn't taking it too seriously. He's like, "Oh, I don't have my powers. I'm still a badass." Like he didn't give a fuck.
Yeah,
You
when they
know?
when he's yeah, when they're on Jotunheim and they're fighting the frost giants, he's just I don't give a fuck. We're here. They invaded us. We're gonna teach them a lesson. Not
Yep.
knowing about like all the treaties and all the peace pacts that his father had set up with them and how he was just going headstrong, and then that's ultimately what loses him his powers and his hammer is just like, and I love it when Odin banishes him because it's like, oh man, him Anthony Hopkins, he starts out like real soft and calm, and then he just builds and builds until finally he's literally yelling his son off of his home,
Yeah.
sending him to Earth. Oh man, so good. And then when he comes back, and then like he's in the good graces of his father again, it was wholesome. It was a lot of fun, and I gotta tell you, man, that scene where he's like, "Oh, well, that's my hammer. I'm gonna get it back," and then he goes to try and pull it, and he just cannot get it to budge. And the performance he gives, where he is just so broken that he cannot do this, and like it's raining, and it's just
Yeah.
it was
Hawkeye's
yeah.
got an
Hawkeye's got him
arrow
in
at the back
sights.
of his head.
Yeah, he's got an arrow pointed at him, and just, but it was kind of like one of those things because no one referred to him as Hawkeye. I don't think anyone even referred to him as Clint. I think they just called him Agent Barton. I'm pretty sure, but
Yeah,
like,
I do
and
believe.
then like, and then they were just expecting the comic fans to pick up on who that is because he wasn't wearing that silly hat that he wear or helmet that he wears in the comics.
Yeah.
So yeah, which I liked. I liked this more modern take on Hawkeye. Now that I've learned more about the character, I think Jeremy Renner was he was one of my favorite parts when it came to the Avengers. But we're almost there. So yeah, so this happens, and then he gets his hammer back, and he's like, I swear, one day I will return. I will return to you. And it's like, okay, where we know that he's going to see Jane again. What's going to happen?
I guess
And
we're gonna find that out in Love and Thunder.
that's going to be interesting because he's pretty much just like, she didn't dump me. I dumped her. It was a mutual dumping, and that's
Yeah.
fine. Okay. So the end credit scene for this one, it's just literally Loki and well, actually, it's the professor and Nick Fury, and they're talking about the Tesseract. And up to this point, no one knows what the Tesseract is or what it does, but he's
And
showing him.
technically neither does the audience.
Yeah, no, they don't. Like,
We didn't
though,
even know what the Tesseract was. We're just
and
like, that's some
it
power shit.
yeah, and if anyone picked up on it that read the comics, they would just automatically be like, "Oh my god, that's the cosmic cube. Oh my god, what's going on here?" And then yeah, and then you can clearly see that Loki has taken over. What's his name? Eric. What was his last name? I'm trying to remember because I'm totally having a
Who
boomer
are we
moment.
talking about?
The guy that was with Jane's research team with Marcy, the Skarsgård fella.
Oh, I forget. Doesn't he become evil at one point?
Well, yeah, he gets taken over or brainwashed. Yeah, but Selvig, that's it, Eric
Yeah.
Selvig. And so anyway, so that ends, and then we probably get to my personal favorite movie in Phase 1 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that is Captain America: The First Avenger.
So much fun.
Oh my! This movie was incredible.
I want another one like that, to be honest. Like they
Well,
could go back and make an original. Was it Defenders? The original Defenders with like Captain America, Human Torch, and Submariner.
the
Do
Invaders.
that shit in the 40s, you know?
They were the Invaders. The Defenders were a completely different team.
Well, the Invaders, yeah.
Yeah,
They need to go back and do that again.
yeah.
Which
It
I
was.
guess they're
Oh,
kind of doing with Carter, Captain
mhm.
Carter.
Agent Carter.
Captain Carter, have you not seen What If?
No, oh yeah, I have. That's the one episode I saw.
Well, no,
Um,
she's coming back. She's gonna be in Doctor Strange.
hmm.
Anyway.
Well, anyway, quit talking about Doctor Strange. Shut shut the fuck up.
You're like, damn it.
um,
She's coming back.
yeah. So up to this point, all I knew is that Captain America was a character, but I had heard none of his backstory. I didn't know anything about him. But this movie cemented my love for Cap, and he's on equal footing with Superman for me personally, even though Superman is just a little more higher. No pun intended. But up and away. No, I really did love this movie. I thought Chris Evans did a really good job, but it was just so off-putting, the effects that they did to him to like make him really small and stuff. Like even when you watch it now, you're like, yeah, that's a bit rough. I don't know if that could like ever be altered to like fix it, make it look better, but there's just something about it that was off. Mostly because I don't think such a scrawny person has ever existed. Honestly, a man his age, you know. But
Yeah.
what do I know? I'm sure there's plenty out there. But yeah, I liked that the whole fighting spirit. I want to fight for my country. I'm tired of just sitting around not doing anything. And I'm like, and that perfectly encapsulates the greatest generation. And I watched this documentary on Cap, and it was saying that Jack Kirby had already been dead for years, but his other creator, Joe Simon, he saw the movie and he was like 90, and he saw the movie and he was just tearing up. He said, "Oh man, Jack would have loved this." And I was like, that's what I like to hear, that like people capture the spirit of a character so well, and they don't try to rewrite him or change him. They make him who he was in the comics. And what more could you ask for?
And that spirit wasn't just the spirit of the character, it's the spirit of a generation, you know?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Yeah, no, this movie was absolutely incredible. Red Skull was amazing.
Yeah, he was really good.
In the middle of it, they do like the music, and they do like a montage of like him fighting and stuff.
Yeah,
That's a classic.
Yeah. Well, are you talking about the one where like he's on stage in his dopey outfit and he's like pretending to punch Hitler at like every place, like because he's literally on tour trying to raise money for war bonds.
Yeah, but then
And like,
it's when they redo it and they're actually like fighting the Nazis and they do
yes,
that montage. That's
yeah,
just a classic scene.
yeah, and he's got his
Really well
motorcycle. Oh,
done.
so good, so much fun. I loved that Tommy Lee Jones was in this movie because he's just one of the greatest actors to ever live. So to have him like yelling orders at Steve Rogers was awesome.
Yeah.
That was so good. Um, yeah,
And
I
Agent
was
Smith was in it.
yes, yeah, Hugo Weaving. He was Red Skull. Johann Schmidt.
I know it's a jump ahead, but what do you think of like him eventually just being in charge of the Soul Stone or whatever, like to
I
protect her?
My jaw
Like
dropped.
like I thought that was a weird use of that character. I was like, wait, what? The character's like a guardian of a stone now?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense because the one thing he wanted more than anything on Earth was to possess one of those stones, and for like him to now be like the guardian of a stone that he could never obtain himself, but only someone else could. It's like the ultimate punishment for his evil deeds.
Yeah.
It's poetic, and when I saw that reveal, my jaw just dropped. I said, "Oh, I was not even expecting that." That's how good Infinity War was, and we'll get to it eventually. Maybe not this week, but in the
Yeah, I don't think we're
future.
gonna be getting to it this week.
Oh no, we're just gonna talk. We're just doing phase one, man. We'll do two and three some other time. But
Where
yeah,
does phase one end? Avengers?
Avengers, yes.
All right, yeah, let's end it at
So
Avengers because
yeah, we will. But so back to Cap. Yeah, the scene where he jumps on the fake grenade, and that was just really inspiring. It was like, well, here's a guy who just wants to uh fight for his country, but also protect his fellow soldiers. I thought,
yeah,
yeah, and he was a perfect pick for the super serum that he eventually got from. But I thought what was really neat was how they handpicked another actor that was kind of similar to the one that was helping Tony when they were in the caves as like a mentor and a friend. You know, like we're in like here you take the dynamics of these two pairings. You got Tony and I believe his name was I can't remember. That's the problem. I don't want to because I know that the doctor's name in Captain America is oh man, I don't want to get this wrong. Hold on one second.
are you talking about the doctor that's doing the experiment?
Well, what I'm talking about first is remember the guy who's like a hostage in the Middle East when he's with Tony in the cave and like
Yes,
he's witnessing build the suit.
yes.
Yeah, I don't want to I'd rather I'd rather boomer out than completely get this wrong. Let's see
Are you
here.
googling?
Uh, Wikipedia actually. How'd you know? Yinsen. That's it. Yep, yep. Now I remember. Oh yeah, yeah. And he's like, "Oh, I just want to get out of here so like I can see my family again." But then, as it turns out, his family's already dead. And so, like, when Tony's like, "Well, come with me," and he's like, "No, no, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get to see my family again." And then that's when, yeah. So I thought that was really cool that when you eventually meet Abraham Erskine in the first Avenger, he's the one who gives he's the one that provides Steve with super serum that turns him into Captain America, and it's like, and he's like, it's not the stuff that I'm giving you that makes you a hero. It's the person that you are. It's like it takes a special man, and it's just like, yeah, he's he's pretty much nailed it. And then I'm not gonna lie, that that scene where like the serum's like going into his body, and it's like completely changing his entire molecular makeup. I get anxiety watching that too, because I'm imagining like all the pain that he's in during that scene. Like he can't do anything, he can't move. He's just like in this pod, and like all this stuff is just getting poured into him essentially. And then, of course, Hydra infiltrates, and he shoots the Steve's friend, the doctor, and now he's got to go avenge him. And he's literally running on the streets in Brooklyn barefoot,
like racing a car or some shit.
Well, no, he was chasing after the car, and then he starts like, and then he started like jumping on cars to like catch up to him, and then eventually he catches up to him at his sub as he's about to take off, and you're just like, oh dang, this guy's motivated, he's ready to go. And then pretty soon he becomes a symbol for the American army, but he's not necessarily fighting like he wants to. He's become more of like an advertisement essentially for the war, and he's not too pleased about it. And my favorite part in that movie is when he goes off to rescue Bucky and the rest of his comrades that are being held up at a Hydra base.
Yep, that was really cool.
When he has Howard Stark and Peggy escort him, and he just jumps out of this plane without even hesitation, and he's like, no, I got to rescue my friends. And then it's just like, and the way he does it, and it's just, it was so good. It's one of my favorite parts of the entire MCU, because that's the moment where he truly does become Captain America. And what was so cool about that scene when they come back to the camp is that Captain America march is playing, and it's just, I just remember that being like the very first piece of MCU music that actually was like an earworm to like, you could like actually recall where you had heard that track from. Like, it's just that dun 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 dun. It's like, oh man, that is so cool. And that was Alan Silvestri, and he would eventually go on to create that iconic Avengers theme that everyone knows today. And in my personal opinion, that Avengers theme is the most recognizable piece of movie music since probably the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Park?
No, the Pirates of the Caribbean theme. I think
I don't even know the Pirates of the Caribbean theme though. Okay, yeah,
because now you do, yeah. And it's just like, because up to that point, I guess you could count The Dark Knight, but that was just more like a lot of blaring and just being loud. It didn't really have any musical composition to it, except, well, there's this one part, but the problem with Hans Zimmer is that a lot of his music, when he's doing Christopher Nolan films, they all sound the same, unfortunately. Yeah. There are some tracks he's done that stick out, but for the most part, it's all like the same noise. Well, at least to me. But yeah, when he comes back into camp and he's like rescued all those guys, such a cool moment to see that. And then yeah, like he gets his shield and they go off on the run, and then Bucky falls off. They lose Bucky, and yeah, and I'm just thinking the entire time, man, I would not want to come across that shield. I would not want that thing thrown at me.
No, dude. That would really hurt.
Adamantium, man. not adamantium. What is it called? God, I'm such a boomer tonight.
Vibranium.
Yeah, vibranium. That's it. Yeah.
It's vibranium shield.
Yeah. So yeah, and then it's such a great movie, but it's also so bittersweet, because at the very end, Cap just sacrifices himself, and he doesn't get to be with the girl that he's fallen for. He doesn't get to have that dance that they talked about. In fact, he doesn't even get to live out his life. He becomes a capsicle, as coined by Tony Stark.
Capsicle.
And then what's crazy is that at the very end, he wakes up and he feels like, okay, it's still the 40s, and I'm in a hospital bed. But as it turns out, he's like, wait a minute,
That Nick Fury.
Yeah. So like they've got like a baseball game on, like an old baseball game that they're playing on this old timey radio, and Steve's like, wait a minute, I already know the outcome of this game. I know what's going to happen. What's going on here? And he wakes up and he like runs out, and all of a sudden he's in Times Square in New York, and then lo and behold, right behind him is Nick Fury. And he's like, "You okay?" And he goes, "Yeah, I just it's just that I had a date." And it's just like, oh man, and you realize that, because Nick Fury even says that you've been asleep for nearly 70 years, Cap. And it's like, oh damn.
Yeah.
And then the movie ends, and the next thing you know, you're seeing Cap, and he's punching a punching bag, and then Nick Fury comes in and is like giving him an assignment, and you're like, what's going on here? And then there, lo and behold, there it is, the very first trailer for the Avengers. And I remember the hype. I remember how stoked everyone was, because they were like, okay, we've had 4 really good movies, and it's all built up to something. This is so cool. It's never happened before. And I just remember counting down the days till that movie came out, because everyone was so stoked. And it turned out to be so popular, I couldn't even get tickets to see it until the very next day. I had to wait till Saturday morning to see it, but I finally got to. And you just want to talk about one of the greatest theater going experiences for anyone. From that opening scene when they're in the New Mexico desert and the Tesseract is acting up, and Hawkeye is talking to Nick Fury. All of a sudden Loki appears, and it's like, oh my gosh, all these actors are on screen together. What's going on? And then there's Black Widow, and oh wait, is that that chick from How I Met Your Mother? Oh, what's going on here? And then we meet the new Bruce Banner, and I'm going to let you cut into here. So the first time you saw Mark Ruffalo on the screen as Bruce Banner, what were you thinking?
Who the fuck is that? Who is that dude? What happened to Bruce? I was like, do they have him locked up here too? Maybe he's in a secret, maybe he's in the underground base.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't like really dislike him at that point. I didn't really dislike him until that. He wasn't like Bruce Banner's such a troubled character, like Spider-Man, he's tortured. Like he has and then the Hulk is the representation of that frustration, but no stop. And it's just like they just made him into a goofball. And I mean, Ragnarok was really Ragnarok solidified in it to me. Like I liked Ragnarok as a movie, but I hated the way that the director used the Hulk in that movie. And I think that they turned Hulk into the bulk of all the jokes. The blood, anyway, of all the jokes.
Well, that's where they just decided that we're not going to be all that serious. Chris Hemsworth is going to get to exercise his comedy chops, and we're going to completely make a joke out of the Hulk and all that stuff. Yeah. But even so, a lot of cool things happened in that movie that still made it fun. I mean, oh my gosh, when Hulk goes against that big wolf, and then he eventually goes after Surtur as Ragnarok is being committed, and frickin' Thor, like even though his eye has been gouged out, he's still like more badass than ever before, even though he's lost Mjolnir. So yeah.
On the regular Avengers, probably one of my favorite Marvel scenes. On the original Avengers, one of my favorite Marvel scenes of all time is when Hulk gets his hands on Loki and just smashes him and smashes him and smashes him.
Puny god.
Yeah. Probably one of the greatest cinema moments in history.
Oh man, yeah, I knew that this movie was going to be something else just from the other opening scene with Black Widow being tied up to a chair and she's being tortured by like Russian gangsters or whatever, and Agent Coulson's on the phone and she's like, "Put her on. Let me talk to the girl. I've got like missiles targeted on this building. If you do not uh let her go, I will like blow up the building before you make it to the lobby. You'll be crushed or something like that." And it's like, oh dang. So yeah, this was like definitely had a lot of Joss Whedon writing to it. I mean, hello, he directed the thing, so
Yeah.
I'm sure he also encouraged the actors to improv and
I
say
do
what
love the
felt
fact
good.
that in Infinity War, like Thanos, because they tied it to Thanos, that whole attack of New York to Thanos,
Yeah.
and then at Infinity War, those same aliens come back to fight alongside with Thanos. Like that was kind of a cool wraparound that kind of brought everything together.
Oh yeah,
You know?
it was a bookend. Yeah, definitely. The Chitauri came back to fight with an end game. Oh yeah, that well,
Yep.
we should have known that was going to happen though. I mean,
We just didn't know how brilliant it was at that time. You know, we're like, they're gonna fuck it all up at some point.
um,
I'm sure we
did
all thought that at the back of our minds. It's just too
now
good to be true.
yeah, now the Avengers, which God, I can't believe it's been almost 10 years since it came out. That's crazy to think about. This May it will have been 10 years since the Avengers came out.
That
I
is
just
pretty incredible.
it's it's pretty amazing. It's also uncanny. But anyway, no, this movie boasts some of the most wholesome Cap moments that I had ever seen. Like one of my favorite ones is when Thor breaks into the Queen Jet and just takes Loki and then he just yeets out of there. And then Iron Man like goes chasing after him, and then here comes Cap following, and Black Widow's like, "I'm not sure it's a good idea, Cap. These guys are literal gods." And Cap goes, "There's only one god, ma'am, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that." That's a total Steve
There's
Rogers
only
line.
one God, man.
That is a total Steve Rogers line, and I love it.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
total boomer line at that.
oh yeah, man. Like, well, yeah, he slept most of his life away. He was just frozen.
Sounds
And
good, right?
oh man! And then when you saw the aircraft carrier like fly into the sky for the very first time, that was such a spectacle. It's just like,
I was
oh
so excited to see that because that was dude, that's one of my favorite like vehicles like growing up, you know, like
yeah,
the fucking helicarrier, you know.
oh
I
yeah,
think they had it. I guess we when did we originally see it? Was it on like the Spider-Man animated series?
oh
You know,
I
might
don't,
have had one in X-Men, but you
I'm
always
not.
see the helicarrier in the background in the cartoons, but we hadn't seen it in the movies yet.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, but yeah, that was the very first appearance of the helicarrier, and then yeah, they need to track down Loki. Uh, and they're like, oh well, what about Thor? Oh well, he's back where on his he's in his world, and we just can't make contact with him. And then they do eventually find Loki in Germany, and they're bringing him back. And then all of a sudden the lightning strikes, and you see Thor come down onto the Queen Jet, and you're like, oh my gosh, here we go. And
Yep.
and it was so funny because Loki's on the jet, and and it's raining, and one of them goes, "Are you afraid of you scared of a little lightning?" And Loki goes, "I'm only not fond of what comes after." And then all of a sudden there's Thor, and you're like, "Oh yeah, here we go."
Yep. The
And
shit
then
hit the fan.
and then that showdown between Thor, Iron Man, and Cap. I mean, it just didn't get any better up to that
Yeah.
point. It's like, oh man, we are here. Let's go. It was just so
I
much
love that they're
fun.
always having problems within the group. Like it's never like everything's hunky dory. There's always
Well, I was really glad that they didn't pull the whole everyone's buddies and we're here on a team, we're here to do a mission. Like it was more realistic. It's like I don't know this guy, I don't know this guy, and then like they're at odds with each other the entire time. Just
yeah.
like Steve doesn't like Tony, thinks he's an egomaniac and just a bit of a lunatic who just thinks he can do whatever he wants. And Tony's just jealous of Steve because that's all his father would talk about when he was growing up. Oh, I knew Captain America. Captain America was so amazing.
Yeah.
And then you get a little bit of Tony's relationship with his father in Iron Man 2, but definitely by the Avengers, you can tell that, okay, this man's got daddy issues for sure.
Definitely got some daddy issues.
Yeah. So anyway, Hawkeye has been taken over by Loki. He's hypnotized, and he goes, and he starts basically fucking shit up. He stops one of the engines, and they could very easily fall out of the sky. So of course, Iron Man and Cap have to go take care of that, and then eventually, that's what happens is they blow up one of the engines. And then Bruce turns into the Hulk for the very first time in the movie. And I just remember, I'm not gonna lie, man. I got a little creeped out because I was like, oh god, here's Black Widow. Poor Black Widow is pinned down, and he's like turning into the Hulk.
She ends up going out with him after that. Like women make horrible decisions sometimes.
Well, yeah, that was no, trust me, to this day, no one knows where the hell that came from.
Yeah, way out of left field. Like, okay, you tried to kill me in the first movie.
Apparently they went on a few missions, and something happened in between there. But yeah. So anyway, they've come to bust Loki out, and he gets out, and Phil Coulson, he gets shot. He's killed. No, he's not shot. He's stabbed. And
kill Coulson.
Yeah, and Coulson.
They don't know that yet, though.
Right, and Coulson is pretty much the catalyst as to why the Avengers are formed. And
then they got to diss him by saying that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't part of the group, but we all know it really is.
Yeah, they could just never get their TV shows straight at all. So
yeah. No, they definitely did with Disney. There was ABC who can get their shit together.
Oh, that's true.
With Disney. Mm-hmm. Because Marvel, Disney Plus Marvel is fantastic so far. No complaints.
Okay. Yeah.
No.
So then we get to New York, and it's just like, and you want to talk about what you had been waiting to see since the very end of Iron Man. Like it happens, they're a team, and they're fighting this alien race, and it's just like everything. It's all chaos. Everything's getting blown away, and cars are getting flipped over. Buildings are getting destroyed. Just at that point, I'm sure you were just in nirvana when you saw that for the very first time.
Oh, dude, that was just, that was an amazing scene. That whole experience of the movies was, and then the first time you see them stand together and the music playing.
Oh yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah. So, were there any parts in this movie you recall just like really flipping the hell out because you were just so excited?
Definitely the big fight scene.
Yeah.
Really, the Hulk beating Loki's ass. That was a sheer pleasure. I'm a big Loki fan. At least I was back then. I was like really into Loki as a villain. Because I like using illusion. Like I don't know if you know, but Magic the Gathering much about it. But I play Blue a lot because it's like trickster magic. you know.
Yeah.
And so I've always liked my illusionists and my tricksters, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So just being able to do that, yeah, the whole thing was pretty much awesome. Just
Mm-hmm.
really hit.
I loved Cap's speech when he shows up for the first time in Germany, and like Loki is like trying to get this guy to kneel, and he's just not taking it. And and like Loki says something along the lines of like, "Oh well, I'm not like uh that." Uh, I can't remember exactly what he says, but then the old man replies with, "There will always be men like you." And then you're like, "Oh, this guy was around during World War II, and like
Yeah,
he's like seen this shit
before
unfold." It's
I've
like,
seen this shit before.
yeah, this tyrant, like who the hell does he think he is? He's just coming in and telling us to kneel. And then Cap shows up, and then what I loved the most was how Tony just comes in like a total Chad, and ACDC's blaring. He's like hacked the Queen jet, and it's playing ACDC, and he just comes in like he's like, Agent Romanoff, did you miss me? And it just comes out of nowhere and just kicks Loki's ass. Loved it.
Yep.
It was so good. So good.
But no, definitely a great one.
Yeah, the Avengers was like, okay, we have arrived. We're really going now. Like everyone, like I think you were the one who told me that like, beforehand the Avengers were like what, C-list?
I mean, they weren't like flying off the shelves, you know,
Right.
like everything like in the 90s and 80s. I mean, 80s you had a couple of big books, but 90s it was really like X-Men and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's what was known for. Avengers was kind of on the bottom. No one I knew collected Avengers. I always got them in back boxes. Like
Yeah.
off the shelf, you were buying shit because you look and see who the big names were writing. You know, the big names were writing Spider Man. The big names were writing X Men,
Yeah.
stuff like that. They weren't a big deal.
Yeah. Which is a shame too, because the Avengers by Kurt Busiek with George Perez is one of the greatest runs of all time. Like beautiful, beautiful art. Like, but then again, Perez is just such a talented SOB who can just draw anything to his heart's content and just fill up those panels with as much as he can possibly fit for
Yeah,
whatever the script calls for. So yeah. Uh, so yeah, I think the Avengers was also the beginning of the big meme culture for the MCU because it had the we have a Hulk part.
yeah.
What were some other ones that you can recall that really like scenes that really blew up? I know for me personally, the most hilarious one was like when when Black Widow was talking to Thor and he's like he's killed like 8 people within the last 2 days or something like that, and then Thor goes, he's adopted.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and I think that was like the very first time I heard people like get offended with something that was related to superheroes. Like, oh my gosh, it was just a joke. Relax. Like, oh well, how could
People
he
got
say that?
offended by that.
Yeah, like, oh, how could people say that about someone being adopted? And it's like, oh, shut up. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
I missed all that drama.
Yeah, all that crap was starting to rear its head because yeah, after this, the normies were totally over the MCU, and it would never just be like this little thing that this little box that everyone just that nerds gathered in to like check out and celebrate. It was now becoming like a global mainstream thing. And
Yeah,
and the box office numbers alone just that weekend, it was like one of the biggest releases of all time. It just broke all these records, and it's just like, okay, here we go. We're going to be hearing about Marvel now for a while. Whatever they were doing beforehand, and like when they thought they were like losing favor in the public eye, there was like a small group people that kept them going, and now they have arrived. They're on the national stage now. They're just blowing up all over.
Yep.
So, yeah, man,
Well, I'm here
Avengers.
for it.
And I'm not going to lie, when they had the Thanos reveal, I had no idea who the hell that guy was.
I knew exactly who that was, and I almost shat myself right there in the theater. That was like the emotional equivalent to my daughter seeing Spider-Man die at the end of Endgame, or
wow.
Infinity War.
Infinity
For
War.
me, with just seeing Thanos appear, I was like, "Holy shit!"
And at that point, you're like, so that's what they're doing. We're doing the Infinity Gauntlet. Here we go.
Yeah, and I was like, it's too soon for the Infinity Gauntlet, but I think it happened at just the right time. Now, in hindsight.
Mm-hmm. Well, did you know that there was a stone inside the Tesseract?
No, had no idea.
Okay.
And when I was like, holy shit, they've been talking about Infinity Stones this whole time, and there are more. And I think it was actually Thor 2 that I started to figure it out.
Yeah, man, with the ether. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like,
well,
I think there's this.
Well, we'll talk about that in the future, but yeah, this was just part one of our MCU talk for phase one. We've got more to talk about, but it was nice to go down this little memory lane of really, if you think about it, just within the past, like I said, the Avengers turns 10 this year. So phase one is turning, like the entirety of phase one is turning 10. That's crazy to think about, but here we are. And now with like a plethora of TV shows and everything else, it's getting kind of hard to remember a time before the MCU blew up to what it is now. So,
yep, that's so true. Well, it's been great doing this, Drew. I got a few things I got to take care of. We just passed that 2-hour mark.
Yep.
Let's do this again next week, all right?
Yeah, man. We'll be in contact.
All right. Sounds great. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for tuning in. All our Russian bots. We
know we have like 4 of them right now. We have 4 Russian bots.
Oh, man. Our army is just continuing to grow.
I know we usually get 2. Now we have 4.
This is so exciting. I hope this has nothing to do with the leaking radiation over the years from the Ukraine going into Russia, multiplying, making more of something. So, but anyway, this has been episode 2 of Comic History Masters in Training, where we are still in training. We're just right now in these early days. We're just exploring the things we have the most knowledge of before we get into really getting down to some research and becoming who we ultimately want to be, the Comic History Masters. So
Masters.
All
right, Drew. But it's been great.
Do you have any
share, subscribe, people?
Yeah. Do you have any closing thoughts about the MCU, Tech Server Nerd? I think I've pretty much said all that I
think I've gotten it all out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so
tune in next week, guys.
Yeah. So it's like Thanos appears and you're just like, well, what the hell's happening from here? Where are we going? And like the Avengers have kind of just like gone their separate ways. Like, oh, will they ever come back? And like Nick Fury says at the end, oh, they will, especially when we need them to. So, Yep. And as it turns out, that's what Marvel did for the public in general. So, Yep. All right. Well, you all have a good night, and thank you for listening to us ramble and stumble and boomer all over the place.
All over the place. We're
boomering
hard.
Yes.
All right, Drew.
I am not a boomer, but
I identify as one.
Well, that's your own personal business. So
yeah.
All right. Thank you all and have a good night.
Talk to you soon, guys.